And we're live. Go ahead, Jennifer.
Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in this evening. This is a virtual neighborhood meeting for a proposal by Habitat for Humanity to construct approximately 32 units of 32 duplex units on a portion of the property owned by the Faith Point Church. Dallas, if I could have my presentation, that'd be great. And we'll go to the next slide. So just in terms of our agenda, as a welcome, I'm Jennifer Hewitt-Apperson. I'm a principal planner here with the City of Longmont Planning and Development Services. I will be facilitating this meeting this evening. With us this evening from the city side, we have Dallas Stiles, who is our digital live stream specialist who keeps everything running smoothly, even when I can't talk smoothly. We also have Sarah Arney, who is a master police officer who runs our safe multifamily. She'll go if she can say it better than me, but basically our safe multifamily housing, crime-free multifamily housing initiatives. From the applicant side, we have Pam Hora from Tetra Tech. We have David Emerson from Habitat for Humanity, and we have Gina Cornella from Rocky Ridge Civil Engineering. So in terms of format, I'm going to give a quick overview of our project and the process. This is a virtual meeting, so we will give our presentations first, and then we will take a break. And at which point you'll be able to call in and get in the digital queue to answer questions or make comments on the proposal. And at that point, we would conclude the meeting once everyone has spoken and once we've responded to the questions. So next slide, please. So just for information, this is our virtual housekeeping. So when we do get to the point where it's time to call in, we will let you know it's time to call in. We'll take a 5-minute break. You'll call in, and when you're called on by the last 3 digits of your phone number, you'll need to mute the live stream so we don't get feedback. Dallas will give a reminder about this process as well. You'll dial the 800 or 888 number on the screen, enter your meeting ID, and that will get you in the queue for making comments and asking questions. So next slide. All right, so just for a quick overview, as I mentioned, this is a proposal by Habitat for Humanity. Have 34 duplexes on 3.6 acres. I think that number might go up or down a little bit. They're still working out the exact details, although Pam and her team will talk more about that. This particular area of Longmont is zoned what's called residential mixed neighborhood. So, and that is basically a medium density zoning district that allows for a mixture of different housing types. You can do single family, you can do duplexes, you can do townhomes, quadruplexes. Basically, it's a density range of 6 to 18 units per acre that's permitted in this district. And the number of units and on the acreage proposed is well within this density range. So in terms of processes, so the City of Longmont, for its development projects that require a public hearing, we require that that the applicant hold a neighborhood meeting. So if that is this meeting this evening, prior to a formal submittal of the application. We do that for a few reasons. The biggest one is so that the applicant team and the city is aware of any particular concerns or questions that the community may have regarding the proposal, so they can address that, get in front of those questions or concerns as they're preparing their application package. This particular project will require a preliminary plat, which is required for any subdivision that creates more than 3 new lots. And preliminary plats do require approval by the Planning and Zoning Commission. Once that approval is received, assuming that approval is received, they would then go to the final plat and site plan process, which is really where the details of the project as far as the engineering, the specific site planning, what the units will look like, exactly how the site would be laid out, what kind of landscaping we would be put in. So those details really come at that second phase of the application process. Next slide. So as I mentioned, so I'm keeping my end brief. I want to let Pam and the applicant team really have the bulk of this meeting, since this is their opportunity to inform the public about the project. So in terms of the next steps from the city side, as I mentioned, an application for a preliminary plat would be submitted. This would be reviewed by the Development Review Committee, which is made up of city staff, planners, engineers, various other city departments, our fire and safety personnel. We do require that a notice of application be made. So once this application is filed, you will receive another notice letter, and there will be another round of signs posted on the property letting you know that an application has been filed. Following Development Review Committee review, we will make a recommendation to the Planning and Zoning Commission, who is the decision-making body on this type of application. Again, there would be another notice to the public in terms of mailed notices, posted signs, and for the public hearing, there is a newspaper, there's a notice in the newspaper as well. Following the preliminary plat, again, site plan and final plat. This is an administrative level approval by the Development Review Committee. So staff will review this and typically goes through a few rounds of comments. We'll make sure all of the city's concerns and requirements are met as well. And again, there would be another notice of application. So the public will be made aware of this project as it goes through the various steps of the development review process. Once it goes through final plat and site plan review and receives that approval, then it would go through building permit review and then ultimately construction. So this is definitely, it's not a quick process. They won't be breaking ground. You won't see construction starting this spring. So we definitely take a very cautious and deliberate approach as we review all of development review projects that come through the city of Longmont. So with that, next slide. Failed to do a transition slide there. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Pam and the applicant team to talk about the project details. Thank you.
Thanks, Jennifer. And I'm actually going to turn it over to David, and he's going to walk through the presentation for you.
Yeah, thank you, Jennifer. Thanks, Pam. So my name is David Emerson. I'm the Executive Director for Habitat for Humanity of the St. Vrain Valley. Dallas, if you want to go to the next slide. We went over our development team, but just as a quick review, Pam is helping us as the planning consultant. Gino Cornella is with Rocky Ridge Civil Engineering as a civil engineer, and then Nate Trick is our architect. So next slide, Dallas. So we're going to go into a lot of the specifics of what we're hoping to do here, but just wanted to make sure we talk a little bit about Habitat and make sure you understand what we do. Our mission is seeking to put God's love into action. Habitat for Humanity brings people together to build homes, communities, and hope. Next slide, please. So a little bit about our affiliate. So Habitat for Humanity around the country is broken up into chapters. We call them affiliates. They serve a specific geographic area. So in our case, our affiliate has been in this area for 35 years. We build and renovate homes and then sell them at no profit with an affordable mortgage. It's interesting to note that over those 35 years is 84% of the homes that we've sold are still occupied by the original owner. Across the country, we hold the mortgage for these homes, or a partner does. There's a less than 2% foreclosure rate, which is consistent with other market rate homeownership programs or what have you. We have not had a foreclosure in the St. Vrain Valley. Our homes collectively represent almost $40 million in assessed value. And our Habitat homeowners have paid $1.7 million in property taxes. When we look at where our homeowners are coming from, the top two industries are in healthcare and education. So individuals that buy our homes, they are literally basic service providers within the community. Next slide, please. So who qualifies for a new Habitat home? Individuals and families that demonstrate four things. One, that there is a clear housing need. That could be that they're paying more than 30% of their income on housing, that there's a safety or space issue, that it's transitional, something like that. In this area, oftentimes they can afford a certain amount of credit and afford a payment, but the pricing of new homes or existing homes is simply beyond them. Second, they have to have an ability to repay an affordable mortgage back to Habitat or one of our partners, as that gets recycled into building more homes. They have to be willing to partner, so they put in hours of sweat equity building the home or their neighbor's home. They take training and classes as part of that partnership as well. Anywhere from 9 to 11 different classes our applicants will take before they buy their home. Things such as financial fitness, home ownership, home maintenance, a class on what it means to be a good neighbor, things of that nature. And then because it is ownership, U.S. citizen or legal permanent resident. Next slide, please. So really the goal for Habitat for Humanity is more than just really a roof over someone's head. We know that home ownership is really transformational. We're looking at really cross-generational change in this program. It's a bit different, if you will, than other things. So we actually survey our homeowners around the state, and we do that every couple of years. And one of the things we want to make sure people understand is something that I think a lot of homeowners know, is that really there are long-term and other positive impacts on an individual and their family with affordable home ownership. So the study that we conducted back in 2021, around 700 Habitat homeowners across the state responded to that. They had been living in their home for enough time to see an impact, and they report things like a greater sense of well-being. They see improved physical health, improved mental health. There are positive educational outcomes for their children. So it really goes beyond just a roof over their head. Next slide, please. And while any individual homeowner, family member has a different story on what that may look like, we do like to always give examples. Patty, in her case, this is one of our homeowners. She was selected in 1999 when their daughter, or her daughter, was 9 years old. She was a certified nursing assistant. She went back to school, powered by home ownership, and now is a registered nurse. Her daughter has graduated from Colorado State, and in 2020, Patty paid off her mortgage early. Next slide, please. So when we think about Habitat homes, we're really looking at 4 kind of areas to understand, or objectives, if you will. One is we make it affordable to buy. So it is priced not at what the market rate would be, but at what it cost us to build that house. And it's underwritten at 30% of a person's income. So really what we're doing is looking at that person's income, setting the payment, including HOA fees, if there's HOAs, property taxes, insurance, and then making sure that upon origination, when they close on the home, that it's not more than 30% of their income. And so that's one of the reasons that we see that these homes, the mortgages are faithfully paid back. Second is we really spend a lot of time on making it affordable to own. So that's things like energy efficiency. We're working with various construction professionals, a dozen or 2 dozen different construction professionals to make sure that the home is extremely efficient to own. The last 2 years, we have put solar on our homes. If we can reduce the energy costs, it's not only good for the environment, but then it's also good for the homeowner, makes their payments, their cost of carrying that home even less. Third is, and fourth, we'll talk more about in subsequent slides, but blended architecture. So we have built the St. Vrain Valley, we've built in almost 30 different neighborhoods if you go beyond Longmont. So one of the things that we spend a lot of time on with architects like Nate and others is really trying to make sure that we blend in as best as possible. And most importantly, that when you drive by a Habitat home, it looks no different than market rate housing. And I understand and would acknowledge that blended architecture, design, those are things that are subjective. But really what we want people to understand is that in Longmont, we have 16 different neighborhoods that we've built in. And in many cases, not many cases, all cases, there's market rate housing around it. So we spend a lot of time that it's reasonable that when you go by those houses, you don't see any difference on what things look like from the outside. And then last is real estate impact, which is really kind of a part of number 3, that if we design it well, it looks good, it looks like no difference than any other market rate house, that it will not have any real impact on real estate values around the area. So next slide. So as I said, we've built in over 16 different neighborhoods in the city of Longmont. That includes single-story homes, 2-story homes. It includes duplexes, triplexes, 5plexes, condominium ownership. We've done just a variety of different things there. These are 3 homes that we have built in Longmont. And just a quote from Chris Allison, who used to be the chief building officer and real official. And really, it was his experience over 12 years and working with his inspectors, et cetera, that there was no difference between our home construction and other neighborhoods and other market rate builders. In fact, he felt like we were one of the best builders in the field. So great testament, and certainly in my experience, that's what we're very proud. Our volunteers and our professional construction folks, they want to make sure it's a good product. Our homeowners are proud of their home. Next slide, please. So occasionally I will talk to folks and there'll be some misconceptions about what the impact might be in terms of real estate values to their homes if there's an affordable house built near them, what have you. And there are a lot of misconceptions. Luckily, we do have national data and we have local experience that we can look back on. Now, obviously, when it comes to real estate impact and valuations, there's a lot that goes into that. And we do not in any way want to suggest that we are insulating and promising that there aren't any impact. That's really beyond us. But when we look at national studies and we look at local experience, really there is no impact in terms of negative impact, certainly, of property values around our homes. So the national studies, there are at least 11 over many, many years in different locations. One of the most recent is 2016 with Trulia Research, an article entitled "There Doesn't Go the Neighborhood." And they looked at the 20 most least affordable housing markets, Denver, San Francisco, and other areas. And really, there was no impact on nearby home values. And then our local experience. So we've built in neighborhoods where we've had both our homes and we've had non-habitat homes, if you will. And so I was going to share 3 local case studies that just demonstrate what we experienced. Dallas, if you can go forward. So this is the Mill Village neighborhood. And on one street, we had a total of 9 homes built over a period of time. 6 were built from 2003 to 04, and then another 3 from 09 and 010. 28 houses on that same street, 19 non-habitat market rate, if you will, homes. And 4 of the market rate non-habitat homes had purchases before or while we were building. And then that same home sold again at some time between, 16 and 20. And what we saw was that initial price in 05 to 07 was $257 a home. Seems very low in this day and age, but then and between 16 and 20, that sales price was $391. So you saw an increase of between $105,000 and $160,000 on those homes. And I have a little footnote here. I was asked to just take a look at that more recently, what we saw in 22 and 23. And homes in these neighborhoods are selling between 406. I have the lowest and the highest. 463,000 and 635,000. So considerable real estate price increase in a neighborhood where we have a significant number of our homes. Second slide. Or next slide, please, Dallas. Thank you. So this is Quail Ridge, similar methodology. 7 habitat homes on a street that had 13, or a block with 13. So about half the homes were habitat homes, half were market rate, if you will, non-habitat homes. And over a period of time between right before we started building and more recently, we saw a jump of between 90,000 and 144,000. And if we look at the sales in that area in 22 and 23, we see even a more pronounced increase, 460,000 to all the way up to 705,000. Next slide, please. And then just the last one is a more recent example where we built 21 homes within a condominium association that had 100 homes. When we started building, the appraised value was 198. Our last house was appraised at 325. And within those appraisals are comparable sales of market rate houses in that development. So they're very much homes they're selling that are increasing over the time period that we're building. And then some more recent sales history that is even higher. Next slide, please. So that's a lot about habitat. Hopefully not too much, but did want to share as much as possible. So as we think about, and now we look at what we're proposing here, what we hope to do, as Jennifer mentioned, this is residential mixed neighborhood. So 15th to the north and Terry to the east, where we can do anywhere from 6 to 18 homes. We're proposing 9 per acre, so about half of what could be done. As you'll see, we're looking at a mixture of 1-story and 2-story. This zone does allow us to go up to 50 feet as an affordable housing provider. So something quite a bit higher than what you'll see. And that's important to us that we're blending. And again, blending is in the eye of the beholder, but we want something that looks good and does not look out of place, if you will. Next slide, please. So again, this just shows the aerial photo of what we have under contract with the church. So we would be doing home ownership, a little over 3 or almost 4 acres. I talked about the density and what we're proposing to develop. Let's go to the next slide, actually. And so this is the conceptual site plan at this point, and I'll try to explain slowly what you're looking at. So north is to the right, with 15th Avenue. You'll see in that area, we have a detention pond and a pocket park. South is, excuse me, to the bottom of the page is Terry Street to the east. And then on the top, you see the existing church building. So detention is something that we have to account for when we're building a neighborhood like this. The detention needs to go to the north in this case. So that's why the placement of the detention pond is where that is, and it's that size. We also will have a pocket park requirement. Some of that will be in the detention pond. Some of that we're proposing is in the central area of the neighborhood. We also, so in terms of street location, we're not able to do a street onto 15th Avenue directly from this neighborhood. So we really need to come in and go off of Terry Street. And so what we're proposing is the loop that you're seeing there. So coming in or out on the north side, and then exiting on that south side. So it may be important to note that there is a 46-foot right-of-way that the city owns on the south side. So there's an existing road that's not that wide that would be expanded. We would need to meet all the requirements, making sure that it meets all the requirements of a road, a local road such as that. Habitat would bear those costs as the developer, and then that would be in place for use of those in that neighborhood and around it. So what we're looking at here is then we have a row of houses on the west side, so towards the church building, and they're again duplexes, so they're paired homes, two houses attached. And on the top side, we're looking at 1- and 2-story buildings, or 1- and 2-story duplexes. On the far upper right, if you will, 1-story, 1 or 2 bedroom homes. So we always try to have some 1-story homes, maybe a smaller footprint for those smaller households, those who might have a limiting physical ability. A 1-story home is better for them. And then the last 3 we're looking at on that row at least is 2-story. In those cases, we're entering and people are loading, if you will, or they're going to their garage from that new street. So we would have a 1-car garage there plus a space in front of the garage for another car. So you'd have 2 spaces per unit off-site, off the street. And then in the middle there would be an alley loaded product. So meaning we'd have that alley going through, and that's where the homeowners with those homes would enter their garages in the back. So both in that area, your front porches do not have a garage. You'll have a two-car garage in each of those cases. I think those were the items I wanted to cover. So next slide, please. So this just gives you a kind of a colored elevation of what we believe we'd be doing here. Things can change as we go, but these are products that we have built before. We feel good about them. So to give you an idea of where these homes would be, on the upper right-hand side of the slide, hopefully you can see where we're proposing these types of homes would be on the west side, closest to the existing church. Again, a 2-story product and a 1-story product, and with the 1-story being a 1-bedroom or a 2-bedroom houses. Next slide, please. Excuse me. So then the elevations here are relating to what we call the alley loaded product. So folks coming in on the alley to go into their garages from the back of the homes. And so these give you a depiction of what they would likely look like. We will be dispersing and making diversifying, if you will, the look, so you don't have a monochromatic, if you will, feel up and down the street. So there may be different roof lines. Certainly the color palettes will be a little different. We are hoping to orient the roofs in such a way to maximize solar. As I mentioned, we would be looking at solar. Next slide, please. So we wanted to give you an idea of what the homes might look like on the street. So this is a conceptual rendering looking from to the northwest. So you're, in this case, you're off of Terry, but looking at that last row of houses closest to the church. So on the one side, it has what we call attached sidewalk, and on the closest side in this slide, a detached sidewalk with a tree lawn and parking on that side. Next slide. So this is looking southeast, so that's really up towards the church, more towards 15th Avenue, and looking on that new road heading southeast. You're looking at the row of houses that have the alley. So next slide, please. And then this is really the last one, is looking southwest. So if you were on Terry Street, and to the right on this slide is the new street. This is likely something akin to what you would see. You can see we're making the roof lines a little bit different with each home, so it's got some architectural diversity. Next slide, please. So one of the last things I wanted to talk about and just is really the three phases of the development. And Jennifer alluded to that, and give you an idea of what we would hope for. And I would emphasize that these are sunny day. We call it sunny day. These are just things, if everything went well. Generally, things take longer than most people think. But we're in this entitlement phase where we need to do all the engineering, all the architecture, all the reporting, and get all that documentation done and get it approved by the city of Longmont, which would be 12 to 18 months. Ideally, we're looking at middle of 2025 before that's done. At some point after that's done, we can do infrastructure, and that's really where we are installing the streets, installing the utilities, sidewalks, things of that nature, preparing the site for vertical construction where we're building houses. And that can last anywhere from 6 to 12 months. If it was done right after, you'd be looking at later in 2025. More than likely, that's later than 2026, just looking at what we think when we'll be building, when we'll be going through, and have our other projects in Longmont completed. And then last is the home construction, and that can take anywhere from 24 months to 36 months. We're always looking to do that quicker. That doesn't mean that's always external work. A lot of it is the home looks done, and there's nothing going on outside. It's all the interior work. But that's a reasonable estimate of what that can take. And so that I have here estimate of 26 or later, likely that's going to be 27 or later. And so Dallas, we can go forward. And so with that, that was really our presentation. Hopefully we covered what folks want to know, but I would just emphasize before we open up to questions that we are accessible. We want to be accessible to the community in terms of feedback, and try to answer questions as we serve these homeowners. So please let us know if or contact our office as things go, if there's questions about habitat in general. Thank you, Jennifer.
Thanks, David. All right, next slide. Dallas, I will let you take this part away.
Sure thing. So it is time to call in. If you are watching the live stream, that means for 5 minutes, we're going to go offline and you guys are going to be able to call in. During that time, you're going to call the number on screen. It's 1-888-788-0099. What you're going to do is enter the meeting ID 844-7052-8020. During that time, you'll be admitted into a waiting room. And once we are back, we'll make sure to mute your live streams and listen to your device that you're calling us on, because I'll be talking to you there and asking you to come online with by reading out your last 3 digits of your phone number. So with that, we're gonna take a 5-minute break.
Thank you so much. See you shortly.
Thanks. to viewers and guests, we're about 30 seconds out from our 5-minute timer. If you are watching the live stream and you'd like to call in to ask a question, now is your chance. Again, that number is 1-888-788-0099. You're going to enter the meeting ID 844-7052-8020. Once you are in, you should be able to hear me through your device that you're calling on. Please mute your live stream, and I will call on your numbers based on the last 3 digits of your phone number. And with that, we are at the 5-minute mark. So I am going to stop the timer. I'm gonna jot these numbers down really quick for callers calling in. This is a public meeting, so I'll ask that you state your name and your address for the record. And you will have 3 minutes to speak. The way that you unmute is *6 on your device. And we are going to start with caller number 854. Caller 854. Would you hit *6 on your device to unmute yourself, please? Hello.
Hi. Yes, my name is Connie Hazard. I'm at 900 Mountain View Avenue, number 114.
Great.
And
Thanks, Connie.
I'm calling, I was a little confused as to what is going to happen between the south end of your project and our mobile home park. As you know, it's not a through street right now, and it looks like possibly it may become that. So do you have any words of wisdom about what's going to happen with that situation?
I will let David or a member of his team answer that question.
Sure, thanks. Thanks, Connie. So I'll explain it how I understand it, and I may ask Pam to chime in. But so there is a right-of-way that allows the city and the existing street to utilize that to expand, if you will, the street and serve the north side of that area. And so what would have to be done is we would be investing in upgrading that street so that it can and I don't know if we can show the street render the site plan, so you can kind of, as Pam talks about it, we can kind of see what we're talking about there.
Yeah. Do you remember what slide that is for me?
Toward the end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
We'll tell you where.
Second.
Yeah.
Well, what I can say about it is right now there's what's marked out there as a private drive is what the sign says to the north side of that mobile home park. And that what's called a private drive is located within 30 feet of public right-of-way.
So
And
Dallas, let me interrupt, Pam. Dallas, if you want to go, there you go. Yeah.
So you can kind of see on there on the left side of this graphic, it says street 46 feet wide. So there's essentially like 30 feet of right-of-way that's existing there that we will be using. And then we're going to be granting another 16 feet to get it to the total of 46 feet of right-of-way. And that will give us enough space to be able to construct a city street so that will meet city standards with sidewalks and everything. And the city will then maintain that. At this point, we have to still go through the process with city staff to figure out exactly how it's going to transition to the west side, which is kind of the top of this graphic. If you look out there, you can tell that people have driven on what looks, I think it's just a dirt road that kind of goes back to some of those mobile homes.
Right, which I think a lot of people park back there.
Yeah, so we would probably be kind of more along the lines of what this graphic is showing. You know, there'd be a city street built that would just kind of somehow transition and end. We'll have to work that out with Public Works on how that happens. But essentially, what we're showing here would be constructed more like a city street.
And that would basically just be from the south end of your property and out to Terry Street. Is that correct?
Yes.
So I guess kind of the concern I've heard people talking about here is straight out south, beyond your right of way that goes through the mobile home park. Is there going to be any kind of a barrier so that people aren't driving through that area?
So
Driving
as
through your mobile home park?
I think, Pam, what Connie's saying is there's not two streets, a private street and a new city street. I think that's Connie, what you're thinking. It really is one. The private street, if you will, is replaced by one public street that is maintained by the city of Longmont.
Okay, yeah, but that's the one that's just from south of your property out to Terry Street.
Oh, right.
I guess
Okay.
my concern is from the right of way on the south end of your property to Mountain View.
If I may share my screen, I've got Google Map aerial pulled up. That might be helpful.
I think I'm with you now that you're saying there's nothing to prevent someone in the neighborhood from going directly south to Mountain View and cutting through.
Correct.
Rather than going to Terry, they're cutting through
Right.
Yeah.
Which is a real issue for a lot of people in here. A lot of people, obviously we're 55 and older, so there's a lot of elderly people walking, and we already have a problem with people cutting through here as it is, doing about 40 miles an hour down this street.
That's something that our in transportation engineering folks would be looking at and working with David and his team to figure out how to address that, because that does appear to be a private drive and not a public street, if I'm
Correct.
not mistaken.
Right.
So
we would like to see that remain a public drive and not a public street. So
gotcha. Yeah, that's something we'll have to take a look at as far as how that's handled.
okay. All right. Well, I just wanted to bring it up as an issue, and then you guys can go from there. But I know I'm not the only one speaking about that problem, so
Okay.
I'm just the only one that can figure out how to get on here and talk to you.
Oh, okay.
Thanks for calling.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you for your input. All right. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Connie. All right, we're going to go to our next caller. Next caller with the digits 173. Caller 173, if you would hit *6 to unmute yourself.
I am going to be on the phone.
Hello.
Oh, hello.
Hey there, do you mind stating your name and address for the record, please?
Kate, 1426 Pratt Street.
Thank you. Go right ahead. You have 3 minutes.
Hey, I just have a question regarding the Pocket Park mentioned along 15th Avenue. Will that become a public park, or is that going to be considered a neighborhood park for residents only within that new community? And then with that, will there be a fence going along 15, or will that just be an open park now?
I can enter. I don't want to take up your 3 minutes or whatever. So Jennifer, if I'm breaking form, but no, it is required as a private, not private, but a public or a pocket park for the neighborhood. So it is not something that something that the neighborhood has to maintain. So the city isn't maintaining it. The HOA that will be for that neighborhood will maintain it. We don't visualize at this point it being fenced off. We don't think it would look good, but our intention would be it would be open. Unless there's abuse, I don't see why the neighborhood would discourage folks from utilizing either parts of those areas, like for example the pocket park by the detention pond and the pocket park that's more central. So we don't have any plans of making it exclusive, if you will, or discouraging you know, at this point, but the homeowners over time will own the rights and the obligations to that pocket park.
Okay, that answers my question. I did have one more kind of along with that, because I know right now that existing property, there tends to be a pretty consistent concern of like transient campers camping there, or like debris or things being dumped there. So I imagine that they have a game plan for kind of addressing that concern with the property.
Yeah, so and Sarah Arney is with us. She may be able to speak into what she's seen as the area has gotten developed. The one thing, you know, I did notice some of the debris you're referring to on the north side when I was out there. Typically what we're hoping for is, as the area is developed and it's owned by the HOA, it discourages that transient activity, and we've designed it in such a way that there's simply less space to be for that activity. But Sarah, I don't know if you have any comment on what you've seen over as the area has developed.
Sure. So, Sarah Arney, Public Safety. Thank you very much, David. You know, the area and you living there, you understand this. We've seen some multifamily come into the area, which I think has actually been beneficial for past transient issues. We have seen some increase and decrease, and it's very ebb and flow. So since the North Point Church stopped serving these folks regularly, it's been a very good thing for the community as a whole. But I think it will be hit and miss with what's going on. Just so you know, looking at your area overall, there's another big property moving into the area off of Main Street, and that's going to be another multifamily mixed use development, and that's going to come soon. I think that it's going to be less and less and less. That's my projection. We can't, I can't give you the numbers exactly, but what I can say is that the communities that have recently moved in, we've had very low calls for service regarding the homeless population.
Okay, yeah, my questions about the park were answered. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, and with that, we're going to go to our last caller. Our last caller, your phone number ends with 869. Caller 869. Would you please hit *6 to unmute? Hello.
Hello?
Hey there.
Yes. The first caller, Connie, she hit on some issues.
Do you mind stating your name and address for the record real quick?
Okay, John Casson, the Mountain View Park 105, and we're directly south of you. Connie was bringing up issues concerning that road. I think this is a major concern for our mobile home park, because we have only one entrance from Terry Street, and there's 82 units in the park. Also, initially, a few things you may not have taken into concern. Terry Street, if you'll drive up and down it tonight, every night, both sides of Terry Street are full of cars. There's no parking on Terry Street, and we have just the one entrance into the mobile home park. If you build that road right there and don't make some kind of I don't know, suggestion, maybe a privacy fence of some kind. So like Connie said, we are 82 units of senior citizens, and I think this is a major privacy concern, and also the traffic it's also a traffic concern and possibly a parking concern. The people here are over probably everybody's over 60, and they go for walks on that road just south of where you're planning on putting that in and out area for your units. That's privacy concern for us for a number of reasons, which I don't have time to go into, but that and traffic and parking, those are all concerns. And if Habitat is building houses, is a privacy fence built somehow so we can still have our privacy and people will feel safe walking up and down that our streets. I'm done. You can respond.
Thanks, John. And I mean, the only response I'd give to you is I appreciate the feedback, and as Pam indicated, and Jennifer will have to take a look at that and try to account for the privacy and the new street and articulate back how we're addressing those concerns. So,
And
well,
David, if I could say something, sorry to interrupt you, sir. I think looking at your property itself and looking at privacy fencing, and then also we don't know the parking implications that will happen. I do know what you're telling me is very true at nighttime. That's pretty typical for many areas in our community. So I think we look at that, and then once we see what we have and what comes with this parking piece, we have implemented, no parking areas. So I think we really need to evaluate what it looks like when it comes. But speaking to your mobile home community and the managers there, I think putting up some type of privacy fence is definitely a recommendation of mine. And looking at the overall access it's been a problem for a long time, as you may agree. So I'd be willing to have that conversation if needed, and I think it is needed. So I can get in touch with those folks.
Yeah, and as we go through the review process as well, that really that how that access functions is something that our transportation engineers and our civil engineers will be looking at, as well as our public safety from the fire access standpoint as well. So there's a few different angles that'll be looked at with regard to that drive and the access points.
Great. Thank you, John.
Hey, are you there? You took up all my time. Are you there? Still there?
Yes.
Yes. If you have further questions, feel free to ask.
Good. Yeah, good. Our concerns are privacy and safety for 82 houses of senior citizens, and the added traffic and the fact that they would have access to the park is not really conducive to things in general. I guess I like the thing. How about you put a resident from the park on your when you start discussing this, rather than our management? Probably, I have my doubts. So I don't know, either somebody from our management or somebody from that lives here to help convey our concerns when you're doing this. That's all.
Thanks, John.
Thank you. And
Thanks,
that's
John.
a big part of why we have these meetings is to hear these concerns before, applicants and developers get too far down the road. So we, that way we can take those into consideration to the best degree possible. So, David?
No, I was just going to echo that is, we do want a dialogue and, if there's things that we can do to mitigate the impact, obviously we know there's massive housing needs here. We're trying to do this in the least dense or very low dense manner in terms of what this is zoned for. The church has decided to sell this property. It's not going to remain open. We believe it's a pretty solid plan, but certainly it's a concept at this point that we need to fine tune that aspect of it. And if we could work with you and whether it's your property management or whoever it is, if there's a little bit of investment that Habitat can do to put a privacy fence up. The question is, where is that? Is that on the northern edge of that mobile home park? Is it on the southern edge? I just need to
northern edge.
Yeah. So and I think those are certainly options if I'm following you, John. So.
And I know my email address is on the meeting notice, or phone number is on there if you, John, or Connie wants to reach out with your contact information, that will help us maybe kind of connect and sit down and make sure we understand and talk about how we can address those things. And the other thing that I think is a benefit, you've talked about, the senior citizens that are liking to walk and that sort of thing. Having this development here with the sidewalks and being able to walk through the neighborhood, this new neighborhood right next to you, will be another opportunity for a safe walking route for people. So that's something else just to keep in mind from that perspective. But yeah.
Okay. Can you give me your email? I don't have that on my screen. Okay.
It's Pam.Hora, Hora, at Tetra Tech, TETRATECH.
Okay. At what?
Tetra Tech.
Yeah.
.com.
HTTP.
No.
Do we have that first slide that shows the contacts? It might be easier to, it's a mouthful.
Yeah, that would be.
There you go.
Yeah. So the email address would just be my first name, Pam, and then dot, and then Hora, and then the @ sign, and then Tetra Tech put together is all one word, and then .com.
Yep.
And
Tetra Tech. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
.com.
.com. Okay. Thank you very much.
Sure.
Thank you for your time.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Thank you.
Dallas, if you'd like to put up my last slide that has my contact information as well. So you have my contact information, you have Pam's contact information. If any questions come up after the fact, feel free to reach out. If you reach out to me, I'll get you the contact information and put you in touch with the applicant team as well. So feel free to reach out. So in closing, anything else from David, Pam, your team?
Not at this point.
Great. Well, I'd like to thank everyone for being here, for tuning in, for taking time out of your evening. I'd like to thank Pam and Sarah and David and Nick and Gino, and as well as Dallas, who keeps us all running smoothly. We couldn't do this without him. And definitely, like I said, feel free to reach out with any questions. And thank you so much for being here this evening.